What's up, guys? It's KB. Make sure you subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. Click the bell icon down below so you don't miss a single video from us. And thanks for tuning in to another video from Underground Sports Philadelphia. Now let's get in.
Philadelphia, baby, you're gonna love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode number 544 of Underground Sports Philadelphia. It's KB. It's Matt. I'm coming to you from Columbus, Ohio. Matt is obviously at home base. We're bringing the pod to you regardless. We got a lot to dive into from the Phils, the Flyers. I'm talking way more Flyers on this podcast, I think, than we have in the last, 2 years. But I guess that's what happens when you finally take a course of action to potentially change. We're not going to have to deal with Monster Trez next year. Shake Milton might be on the way out. And we'll get into the Philadelphia Union as well. But before we get into everything, make sure you guys are following us at Underground PHI on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.com/UndergroundSportsPHI. And if you want to see Matt and I record every Wednesday episode live, you can watch us on Twitch.tv/UndergroundSportsPHI. Follow Matt on Twitter at Matt Castorina. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Subscribe to the podcast feed on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a 5-star rating and review. It does go a long way for helping the show continue to grow, helps more people find Underground Sports Philadelphia, and lets us take this thing to the next level. And, of course, be sure to subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/@UndergroundSportsPhiladelphia. That's where you get full video episodes of this show twice a week. You get video episodes of every podcast on our network. You get live streams, shorts, original content. It all goes on our main YouTube channel, youtube.com/@UndergroundSportsPhiladelphia. And of course, this show is presented by City of Vineland. And the City of Vineland Municipal Calendar features city-organized, city-sponsored, and city-affiliated events that are of public interest. The calendar, which is accessible at vinelandcity.org, is a good way for residents and visitors to build awareness, remain engaged with city government, and participate in local events. You can also follow the City of Vineland on social media via their Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube pages. Through these tools, you can stay connected to the community, get important announcements about programs and services offered by the city. Vineland, New Jersey, where it's always a growing season. And big thank you to Security 21 Security Systems and Paul J. Gillespie Incorporated for their continued support of this podcast. What's going on, Matt?
I am living the dream.
We unfortunately saw the Phillies' win streak dream come to an end at the hands of the Atlanta Braves. The first time the Braves being back at Citizens Bank Park since Rhys Hoskins was bat spiking, Spencer Strider was struggling, and the Phillies were on their way to advancing to the NLCS. But the Phillies let one slip away where Ranger Suarez goes 6 innings, only gives up 1 run, and then for whatever reason, Rob Thompson kind of hit the Joe Girardi button and let Jake Thompson come in and pitch, and things just unraveled from there when you bring in a guy who's not a high-leverage reliever. And I stand corrected, it was Jeff Hoffman. I saw that he signed Jake Thompson. He's at Double-A, which, I mean, the way that the Phillies bullpen pitch, they might as well all be at Double-A. But it was a winnable game, unfortunately, that slipped away. And we've talked about it since we kind of got told and news of how the schedule was going to be this year for baseball and how important divisional games were going to be. To kind of let a game like that slip through your fingers is tough, especially against the Braves.
Yeah, what's stupid too is the Phillies have been on this great streak and they've actually lost ground in the division now. They've won 13 of their last 16, and have now lost a game in the division, which is super frustrating. But yeah, I think I felt all this season that the Braves aren't really our competition. I think and that's really been solidified by the fact that we've been playing very well over the last 2 weeks and have made up nothing in the division because they've been just as good, and that's just been the way they've been all year, to be frank, too. It's not like they're on some hot streak, although they have been really blowing teams away. So I think that's a positive sign for the Phillies, right? They'd scored over 100 runs in their last 20 games. They had been on some kind of tear coming into this series, so the fact that the first game you get a good Ranger Suarez game, I'm going to choose to take the positive approach here and look at the nice parts of this. Like you said, Ranger goes deep into this game and has hands off what is a very winnable game at that point. And I think you're right to point out that I think Rob Thompson, a little bit of a head scratcher with some of the decisions there. I don't know what our obsession with Covey is. I really don't get it. I don't know why he keeps getting he keeps getting time, because he just has not been effective. And he wasn't the only reason we lose that game. But yeah, just a bit of a bizarre decision. Listen, it's a frustrating loss in the sense that it was right there for you, and I think it's a little bit demoralizing, at least as a fan, when you feel like this team is playing so well and it hasn't really. You feel like this team should be in a division race, and they're just not, and they're not going to be. And it's just frustrating when you're looking at the wild card this early, and like that's what you're kind of hanging your hat on as a Phillies fan, is that we're in the wild card race, and the division just feels so out of reach because the Braves just know how to churn a regular season out, and they know how to find talent and scrape it from the bottom of a barrel or from your local high school and somehow just make it work. I don't get it, but yeah, I think on the whole, this Phillies team this year has been so Jekyll and Hyde, and that I have expected to be coming on this podcast to be talking about I think we joked that they were going to lose 2 out of 3 to Oakland, right? And that would be like the funny bit from this team, and they sweep Oakland, right? And I mean that was even with resting some guys for that series.
And 3 out of 4 from Arizona.
Yeah, like you win a good series against Arizona. Like you probably should have swept that series, to be honest, if it wasn't for that wonky first game. But that's good. Like that's objectively a good thing. And you sweep a team in Oakland that you should be sweeping. The Phillies over the last few years have struggled to do those kind of what you should do in this scenario types of beats. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot to be positive about. I think, too, the fact that the pitching has looked better. You highlighted Ranger Suarez, and, we've talked about Taijuan Walker and his turnaround now. He's had 3 good starts, in a row. And I think that's a really positive thing. And Wheeler and Nola's been a little consistent this year, but, those are guys you still trust in big moments, can give you big performances. But, I think that's, again, if you're looking for a positive spin, that's the positive spin for me is, yes, it's a frustrating, series opening loss, but, truth be told, I'm much more positive about like the 2 weeks preceding than I am negative about the one game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you brought up, it sucks looking at the wild card this early, but when you do, like, Phillies are only 2 games out of the wild card. The unfortunate part is 2 of those 3 teams that are currently in the wild card are in the NL West, and they're going to be fighting all season for them. And the Giants are just on a tear right now, won 9 in a row. And then the other team that you're competing with, where division games come into play and they're so important, is the stupid Miami Marlins, who are somehow still not coming back down to earth. I don't know if they ever will. They're 42-33, and they're sitting pretty much damn near a virtual tie for the number 1 wild card right now. And then the next team is the Dodgers, that you're 2 games behind. But the way the Phillies are playing right now, and yes, the first Braves game sucked, and it, like you said, it was demoralizing from a fan perspective. The way they're playing right now, though, they have to continue to stockpile wins because so many of these teams that are behind them, not only, a team like the Mets in the division, but teams like the Padres, teams like the Brewers and the Cubs and the Pirates, who are all kind of like hovering around that weird wild card space where it's like it's still early enough for us to feel like we're still competing for a wild card. You want to be able to just like rip their souls out and give them no hope of a wild card and just keep stockpiling wins to push them further and further down in the wild card standings, even going into the trade deadline, because then that opens up opportunities for not only you but other teams to go to these teams that are behind you in the standings. And it's like, hey, you're not going to make the playoffs, so sell us off some of your best players.
Yeah, that would definitely be an ideal scenario. But like you said, the wild card race is still very wild. The Marlins, I think, could just have an outlier season. It's not impossible, and they would be the team to do it, of course. I think you're right in thinking that at some point this is all going to kind of wash away, but it hasn't, and I wonder if at some point, we get to late July and they're still hanging around the wild card at that point. Who knows, right? Like it's a really challenging thing to say. I think it does obviously make this Brave series is important, and you want to be winning every game, every series that you're in. But let's be real, you do have some priorities, and it does add a little more intrigue, I think, to the Mets series, later this week because listen, the season is long, and as bad as the Mets have been recently, there's still only 4.5 games back of the Phillies. That is ground you can make up in mid June. That is the Phillies were in a worse position last year and went to the World Series.
We've seen them
maybe not
come back
position,
from worse
but
in September against the Mets.
yes. So maybe they weren't in a worse position. The Phillies hadn't lost like 20 straight like the Mets have, but it's the Phillies were not exactly in a strong position in mid-June last year either, and the season ended up very good for them. So the Mets still have time to turn it around, but that series I think is much more important to me personally, and I think for the rest of the Phillies season because that's a team you could theoretically actually be competing with the wild card for. It'd be nice to have a tiebreaker over, and like you said, maybe if you sweep the Mets or at least win that series, you're putting some distance between them. Maybe you're pushing them further away from that life raft. And that'd be the ideal thing. And yeah, you just have to figure out now how to beat the Marlins. That'd be nice. If only we don't have like long history of just not being able to beat the Marlins.
It's absolutely insane. I think I saw earlier this week. John Stolness put a tweet out about like the makeup of the Phillies schedule for kind of the remainder of the season, what they played so far. I'm gonna try to pull it up here if I can find it. It is pretty fascinating the way that the schedule works out for the Phillies here, like down the stretch throughout like the rest of June and going into like the dog days of summer. So on the 19th, John Stolness tweeted the Phillies started their 7-game road trip 13-22 on the road, the second worst record in baseball. They now sit at 19-23. They've played 30 home games, 42 on the road, and that's 12 more. Like they've cut out a big bulk of their road schedule already, and it's June's not even over yet. I think it's huge. When crunch time is rolling around and they're going to be able to have some more home games, and we all know they're for whatever reason a much better home team than they are on the road. To have that advantage for yourself, going down the stretch of the season, I think is going to pay dividends for the Phils.
Yeah, I think we talked about that maybe 2 weeks ago when we were just kind of discussing that. This past series against Arizona and all that was kind of the last time that this team is going to be going west pretty much all year. They have one series away to San Diego, but largely speaking, yeah, they're going to be in the Eastern time zone and at home a lot more on the second half of the season, which is an advantage. When you cut down on travel and you don't have those long, late flights, that is a nice benefit to have, when you're talking about the second half. I was looking at it too. They're 5-9 in the NL East this year. That's tough. That has to improve. And if you're going to be competitive, the Braves are 18-6 in the NL East so far this year. Now, of course, they've had the benefit of kind of steamrolling on like the Nats and the Mets already this season. The Phillies haven't had a lot of opportunity, but yeah, I mean, a bulk of those wins too for the Phillies, of those 5 wins, are against the Nationals. They really have not played well against their division rivals this year. And that could really be the difference between this team making the playoffs potentially or not. It sucks to say, but if you continue down that path and you're not competitive against the Mets, against the Marlins, against the Braves, you're really putting yourself in a much more challenging position. They're 16-10 in interleague play. That is, and guess who's the best in the division though? Is the Marlins, who are 17-7. So of course
they are.
Right? It's just
added to the
bizarre
list.
stuff. Yeah, so you hope the Phillies improve it in that regard because right now I think even the Nationals are just doing slightly worse in the division at 7-15. So you really don't want to be in their stratosphere.
The discrepancy though in games played against the division compared to everyone else for the Phillies is wild. Like the fact that they've only played 14 divisional games and it's June 21st as we record, this is crazy.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I mean, we're like 2 or 3 series behind everyone else. The Braves have already played 24 games against divisional opponents. We have not done that. Like it's not even. I don't know how
series more.
yeah, I don't fully understand how that's happened. It's so strange to me because it feels like and it's true, we have barely played the division this year, which maybe is a good thing because I'd actually prefer, based off last year too, where we had the opposite, where it felt like we played 80 games against the Mets and the Braves by June. That maybe, when we were a little more inconsistent in April and May, maybe it's better now that when this team feels at least a little more settled and like they're in a little bit better of a groove, that maybe now the more meaningful games come along and the ones that could really matter. But, ultimately, again, you're going to have to improve on that record if you want to be a wild card team because, like it or not, you're going to have to compete, it seems like, with the Marlins and possibly the Mets, if not both of them, for wild card positions. So, having those advantages, they've already done a lot of good work by playing well against the Dodgers and a team like the Diamondbacks. Like, you have a chance here with someone like the Padres, even like the Cubs. Like, you've done good work if you're the Phillies to kind of put yourself in a good position. A lot of the teams around you, you either have the tiebreaker or have the opportunity in the series remaining throughout the season to get a tiebreaker against them. Like, don't let the division be the reason, that you miss out on this, because that'd be a really frustrating way to miss out on the postseason.
And not that I ever want us to, prey on the downfall of our enemies, but it is crazy how the Mets have ruined Justin Verlander. And that has been such a huge, thorn in their side to their downfall this year, is that they go and spend big money on a guy who was unbelievable for the Houston Astros over the last 3 or 4 seasons, whatever it's been. Comes off Tommy John surgery, wins a Cy Young and a World Series at our expense last year. Then he goes to the Mets, and he's absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I wonder what it was about Houston that was so good that he was so good down there. That's crazy that he was so good in Houston, and all of a sudden he's bad now. That's just bizarre. That is so bizarre. I wonder, he's not hanging out with Framber Valdez, so I think just something about Framber and him. They just had that good connection, There's a really good link up, I think they really just a good shot in the arm for each other. I think they really got along well. They really should have stuck together. I mean, it was crazy. Like that team, anywhere they went, they called them the traveling band because they were so happy, so excited. They would just start drumming on things, banging on stuff. Man, just a fun team to be around. I don't know what it was.
They just wanted guys to bang on the can all day.
Guys that were 57 looked 32 on that team. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's just, and it's truly a modern marvel that team was just so healthy, and they got so much mileage out of Verlander, and all of a sudden he's bad. That's surprising.
You hate to see it. You just hate to see it.
Actually, you love to see it. You love to see the Mets doing terribly. It is truly a blessing.
It brings nothing but joy to my heart to see Mets fans in shambles calling their season over before Memorial Day. It is just a beautiful thing, and watching them suffer into June now has been such a treat. Let's take a look at the Major League Baseball and, of course, NL East run differentials. It's brought to you by our friends over at Wasted Wedge, and a new age of golf has arrived, and are looking to be the talk and envy of your group and create memories with friends and family. Look no further than the lineup of Wasted Wedge products and merchandise. These Wasted Wedges are a blast to drink shots out of on and off the course, and you guys can check them out at wastedwedge.com or find them at Wasted Wedge on Instagram and Facebook, and be sure to follow them. Let them know you're coming from Underground Sports Philadelphia. Remember the name, it's wastedwedge.com, and follow them on Instagram and Facebook at Wasted Wedge. Matt, looking at the NL East run differential, the Braves by far and away ahead of everybody in the standings with the plus 102 run differential. If they score 1 run tonight, they will eclipse the 400 mark for the season. They're just on a roll. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They were going, toe for toe. I think this happened last year too, where the Phillies went on a long win streak at the same exact time the Braves did, and one loss cost the Phillies effectively 2 games in the standings.
Yes. By the way, I've just been looking at some of the expanded standings. The Phillies are the second best team in baseball in 1-run games. They're 16-7 in 1-run games. Would you like to guess who is number one in one-run games in
It's
all
gotta
of
be the
baseball?
Marlins. It's gotta be the
The
Marlins.
Marlins are 18-5 in one-run
What
games.
the fuck?
We can't beat these guys. We just can't beat these guys.
We need to open an investigation.
I mean, come on.
Something's fishy there.
And they're not just like better; they are far and away the best. Like 16-7 is already very good. You know, if you look around the league, you know, there's really not a lot of teams even have like above 500. You know, like the Brewers are 11-4. You know, that's about the closest I'm looking at, and we're very far ahead of everyone at 16-7. They're 18-5. That's disgusting.
That's
What are we doing?
crazy.
Come on.
Speaking of the Marlins, they're just most ridiculous outlier stats. They're 42-33 on the year, and they have a negative 18 run differential. They have scored the second least amount of runs in the division at 303, but they have lost 2 straight, so got to catch them while they're cold.
They are the Minnesota Marlins. They're just fraud alert everywhere you look with this team. I mean, truly.
It's unbelievable. 22-15 at home, 20-18 on the road. It seems like if you want to beat the Marlins, you got to catch them in your home stadium because something's going on down there in Miami.
I don't know what it is. I'm sure Ron DeSantis has something to do with it. Investigation is ongoing now.
It's Jimmy Butler's coffee. They probably,
his $100 coffee.
They extracted some of Matthew Tkachuk's sternum.
I heard the Miami Marlins' new business idea is they're going to sell $1 million ticket, and all they need to do is sell 1 ticket each game, and they're good. You know, and like someone's bound to buy this thing. All they need to do is sell $1 million ticket, and they're good. I'm sure someone in Miami is going to spend $1 million on 81 home games at some point. So, and that's all they need. They'll make it. They would make $81 million if they did that. That's all they have to do. It's easy. Just like Jimmy Butler just has to sell like $100 cup of coffee, and he's like a millionaire somehow. You know, it's fine.
It's so.
Don't worry about how that's going to happen. Just know that it just needs to happen, and it's good.
Jimmy might make more money selling coffee than he does in the NBA.
I mean, if he does the smart thing and sells a cup of coffee for like $10 million, he just needs to sell 3 cups of coffee to match his NBA salary.
10x. Baby.
It's about the grind set. It's about the mindset. He's not taking the dinner with Jay-Z even anymore. He's taking the dinner with the Starbucks lady. That's what he's doing.
People are actually taking dinner with Jimmy Butler now.
Yeah, he would. And honestly, here's the crazy thing: he doesn't even eat. He's just a regular guy. He's getting the cafe because he's studying the competition to sell better coffee.
And then taking the nightcap over to Dunkin' Donuts and saying, "Hey, like you said, Matt, it's the grind set."
I'm gonna be honest. I'm not trying to cause a stir here, but Dunkin' Donuts for me is not a competitor to anyone. That coffee is a last resort, last option type of coffee. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not even a coffee snob. I will drink anything. I like my coffee just black straight up, and I will drink. But I'm telling you, for me, Dunkin' is like, all right, like how, I guess it's like you're in the car with everyone else, and you're in a Dunkin' car, and everyone's like, oh, we're gonna stop there. I'm like, okay, cool, I guess. I would much rather most anything else, but sure. I would rather find my way to like a DoubleTree or a Holiday Inn and get the like continental breakfast coffee than mess around with Dunkin' Donuts. And just again, I'm not even trying to be a coffee snob. It is just not good coffee. It just isn't.
And then the Phillies in third place, 38-35. Still, unfortunately, with a negative run differential.
I like the tangent we went on. That was fun.
That was great. See what the Marlins do to us. The Phillies with a negative 15 run differential. Still trying to claw their way out of the negatives there, but 19-12 at home, 19-23 on the road. So they're winning just as much. They just need to figure some more things out on the road in terms of stringing wins together like they did out west for once. The Lowell New York Mets at 34-40 are currently at a negative 15 run differential as well. They've scored more runs than the Phillies, but they've given up more runs than the Phillies, and they are 4-6 in their last 10. And it's just a beautiful thing. They're 17-15 at home, but on the road they're 17-25. They just don't know how to win away from the old Big Apple. So keep putting a beat down on the Mets if you're hosting them, because we love to see it. And then the stolen franchise Washington Nationals at 28-45. They have a negative 59 run differential. Something that shocked me, and I guess they've just been on a roll here right now. I mean, everybody but one team in the NL Central has a negative run differential, and it's not the first place team because it's the first place Cincinnati Reds, Matt. Who saw that coming? Cincinnati Reds at 40-35, catching heat right in the beginning of summer. They've won 11 in a row, but still have a negative 14 run differential.
I think that might be your fault. I think since you stepped foot in Ohio, they've been on a heater.
And I'm going to the game on Friday, which
they will lose that
for
game.
The Reds. They probably will.
They will.
But I'm going to have to root for the Reds because they're playing the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah. Well, okay, so you know what's crazy? We've obviously had this like submarine thing. How did Nick Castellanos not? He has to hit a home run tonight, right? I don't know.
Got to.
And I'm not trying to be dark here, but I know there's like the deadline for like when their oxygen runs out. Is it going to be like when like it's kind of confirmed like no matter what they're not with us anymore? Is that when Castellanos strikes? I don't know how his powers work. I don't know if it's always the start of the bad event or if it's like because really like I guess it's still very much up in air because they could technically still find this thing and it's a happy ending. And I don't know the Castellanos' aura really affects that at all. But I think maybe Thursday, if it hasn't been found by then, I would maybe consider throwing some money down at Castellanos to hit a home run because it just feels like if he is really Mothman reincarnate, that feels like the right thing for him to do.
Well, I mean, he hit the home run the day I-95 collapsed, and that was just an inevitable thing.
That's the thing, like it's I got to think that, it's just the energy around him is waiting till we get some clarity on the situation because it's so unclear right now. Again, they could just pull this submarine up out of the water and then that the Blink-182 kid has got to explain all the weird tweets to his stepfather. So
Castellanos is like the scene in Infinity War when Thanos like grabs the Mind Stone out of Vision's head, but not the right way, so he just reverses it, and then he's got to do it when the time is right, and then he powers up perfectly. That's him just waiting for this submarine to either be found or just go to the complete abyss. I did see a very funny post that the easiest way to find the submarine, because there's only one address in the ocean, and it's 42 Wally Way, Sydney.
I tell you, listen. I just don't go like 2 miles under the ocean in search of things. Nothing good comes from a trip like that. I'm just going to be honest. There's just nothing to gain from that experience. And I think that's maybe the most important lesson that we've all learned over the last few days. And I just look forward to seeing Castellanos give a stamp of finality to this on Thursday, one way or the other. And we'll just have to wait and see.
At least it wasn't our good pal Dom controlling the ship, because the video game controller might have been broken.
Yeah, and I wonder if maybe that's the problem, if they get FIFA on that screen and maybe someone got a little upset. I just have a million questions that you will obviously never be answered, but my number one is why. But outside of that, I think there's a lot. I need to know what the bathroom situation is. I need to know what the airflow situation is down there. Like, they're just in a can with like no moving air. Like, it's gotta be hot, right? It's gotta be sweaty.
Did you see the picture of them in the vessel?
I did, and it's like it didn't look cozy. It looked a lot like you were just sitting in a drainage pipe. And I'm not a submarine expert. I'm not an expert. And that's why I have so many questions. I don't know. I would take one look at that thing if I had disposable income where I could theoretically spend $250,000 on some kind of excursion. Number one, this would not be the excursion that I would do. But number two, I would look inside the thing and be like, I'm actually good. This is not for me personally. Just not for me. I will just fire up a YouTube video of someone else doing it And it's kind of just the same thing because you're not even experiencing it. You're just seeing it on a screen. It's not like you're looking up the porthole and you're like, wow, that's the Titanic. Like, you're just seeing it on a TV. That's no different.
James Cameron has to be drooling, though, because he knows the sequel's in the works now.
James Cameron's like, these idiots. I've been down there dozens of times. This is they should have just asked me.
I did this without a submarine, actually. I dove down by myself.
I just attached a tire to my legs and drifted down to the Mariana Trench.
Avatar 5 is just going to be the sequel to the Titanic.
I'm looking forward to the Easter egg in the new one. So,
but look, getting back to baseball, the Chicago Cubs, the only team in the NL Central with a positive run differential, and they're 36-38 with a plus 26 run differential. While everybody but one team in the NL West is sitting positive. The Colorado Rockies, though, with the worst run differential in the National League at minus 103. And I feel like that's a team that has to be added to the trade deadline watch now. Like, they just continue to free fall. And that team, for whatever reason, just can't figure it out with anything. Like, if they're willing giving up Nolan Arenado to then go sign Chris Bryant, and he hasn't been the same since he's gotten out there, they just need to trade off any relevant piece on that team to whoever and just start from scratch, because something about that team just, they don't know what they're doing.
Why is no one asking for them to get moved to Las Vegas? They've been why are they not going to Las Vegas is my question. They've been just as bad in my lifetime as Oakland. I think they've both had like one or two playoff runs in my lifetime. I think Colorado's had like marginally more success, but
because they got swept in the World Series.
Yeah, I'm just asking questions here. That's all. I'm just RFK. I'm just asking questions, baby.
They and I mean they have pitching that, like, I feel like if you get that pitching out of Coors Field, they'd be pretty serviceable.
I will say that is the lie we tell ourselves all the time, though, with Colorado pitching. It's like, well, if you get, and I just feel like people have said that, like, again, my entire lifetime, and it feels like it's never worked out that way. I cannot remember the last pitcher to leave Colorado and be like good. I just feel like a lot of times, and it's an easy thing to tell yourself, but I look at this roster and I'm not like, I'm interested. I'm like, I'm good. I think I'm actually pretty good.
Yeah, and I can't even campaign for John Gray this year because he signed a massive free agent contract for the best team in the American League.
Who's the other guy you always liked on here? Charlie Blackmon. You were always a big.
Yeah, he's like 30,000 years old now, though.
Yeah, but that's an old hitter.
He's like the old man version of Brandon Marsh.
He's the ghost of Christmas future. Yeah, is Kyle Freeland doing it for you?
I mean,
not interested.
I'm not saying I would trade for him, but that's a guy that the Phillies front office would be like all over because he's from here.
Chase Anderson is on the Rockies. No wonder.
Yes.
God, no wonder.
Talk about a terrible place for that guy.
I'm sorry. They signed Chase Anderson, the Rockies. That guy had like a 200 ERA here. God
it's
almighty.
Like the worst place for him to possibly end up.
And he hasn't been awful. How? He's got 34 innings pitched, 4.72 ERA. I think he's a better ERA than Zach Wheeler right now. God works in mysterious ways, dude. That's all I know.
That's unreal. And then looking at the American League, the Tampa Bay Rays still with the best record in baseball at 52-25. First team to hit the 50-win mark this season. They have a plus 146 run differential, which is second best in baseball, just behind the Texas Rangers, who are 45-28 at plus 150. And then the Oakland A's back in the driver's seat for the worst record in baseball at 19-56 with a negative 204 run differential. Meanwhile, the Kansas City Royals just a game and a half behind them at 20 and 54. They have a negative 118 run differential, and then the American League adjacent, the Miami Marlins, is the Minnesota Twins. They are 36 and 38 in first place and have a plus 22 run differential this year.
It's some kind of fraud. I don't know what it is, but we're gonna get to the bottom of it and call it for a meeting at the Four Seasons. We're gonna make an announcement. We're headed with a team of lawyers to sort this out because I gotta tell you, they're stealing it from us, Kyle. That's what they're doing.
It's crazy. Can we also just get the Phillies to do a team bonding on one of their days off to get them all hypnotized to let them believe that every month of the year is June?
Yeah, there's something about this month that yeah, I agree. I don't know if it's we might just have a bunch of dudes from the desert. I think that's our problem, and they just need a lot of sunlight. They're fickle plants, and so June, has the most sunlight, for the whole year. So maybe that's just what it is. Maybe we've got a bunch of window plants, and we need to sort something out here.
We have a team full of the yellow spotted lizards from holes.
Yeah, that's too damn bad.
Oh man. So yeah, second game of the series.
That's Bryce. That's Bryce yelling at everyone else on this team, I'm tired, Grandpa.
The second game of the series against the Braves tonight hopefully goes our way, but who knows? That's the joy of Phillies baseball. Is you never know what's going to happen with this team because every single night is something new that makes you go, what the fuck?
So we're in a rain delay right now, by the way, because I kept checking back in and it just kept replaying Aaron Nola pitching to Ronald Acuna Jr. Man, this has been a long at bat. They've been going for 40 minutes. That's quite the duel, huh? So yeah, I think a rain delay is very bad for us actually, and has me very pessimistic about the outcome of this game. This is not ideal situation. To be very honest.
At least it didn't happen while the game was already started. Because I feel like that's always the worst for us is that's when Nola's at his best. He'll have his great 2 innings and then it's rain delay and then you lose.
It seems like they started because last play is Aaron Nola pitches to Ronald Acuna Jr. and then it's a rain delay. So I wasn't watching it live. And this is someone is definitely screaming, listening to this, you idiots. But yeah, it seems like they actually started and maybe they did it. I don't know. Tough to say.
Let's see.
It's top of the first with no outs, so it maybe didn't actually start. But
nice little delay.
Yeah. Well, this is just we're getting rain for quite the next week, which is fantastic. You love to see it.
Gotta love it. Let's go from the baseball diamond to the new orange and black. It's brought to you by our friends over at Kenwood Beer. It's the official beer of Underground Sports Philadelphia. They just did a full-fledged rebrand of everything. New merch is available at kenwood.com that looks fantastic, including the Kenny Hockey Club shirts, the Kenwood Golf shirts. They look amazing. It's a refreshing light beer, 4.1% ABV, 127 calories, just 10 grams of carbs. Go to kenwoodbeer.com. Use the Kenny tracker to see who has all new and improved Kenwood beer on tap in the Philadelphia area. You can buy it at your local Philadelphia area liquor store or in Eastern Pennsylvania, your local Whole Foods. Check them out. They've got the gold tops now as well. Light body, light calories, plenty of flavor. The best light beer on the planet. Must be 21 or older to do so. And, of course, please drink responsibly. The new Flyers jerseys have been released, Matt, and I think the only difference I see is the giant Independence Blue Cross logo patch that your brother was not too happy about, and the black jersey that they have is still the exact same one from last year, and they didn't change the orange like they did on the other two jerseys.
I'm going to be so honest. I could not tell the difference. This felt like the office gag. Corporate needs you to find the difference between these two pictures. I I see no appreciable difference between these two things. I feel bad for the guys they dragged to have to come back and throw these things on. And by the way, if you ever seen those videos of the runway models going down, and they always have those like kind of runway model faces, they're very like, I don't know, they're sort of like they're giving blue steel a little bit, like they're giving those cold blank stares, but also like serving a little bit. These guys look like they have just been told that they have their families in the other room and that they're going to be deported for espionage or something. Like it, honestly, it could not have been worse vibes ever. I don't know what was. First of all, do we need like in-person jersey reveals at all to begin with? Is that a thing that we need? We can't just release a graphic. We can't just like take pictures with them or like Photoshop them. Do we really need this to begin with? And number two, if you're gonna do this, shouldn't it be an actual change that seems
right?
Like you look at me like, oh wow, those are new. I honestly could not tell you what is different about these jerseys
at all. The black jerseys did not change, and apparently they went back to the burnt orange that they had in the past, but couldn't tell the difference. And like you said, the guys that were modeling them looked distraught and just like did not want to be there. Also, kind of weird that like he's still on the team, but Travis Konechny not involved in the jersey reveal whatsoever. Kind of shocking to me. And apparently, people talking online today that something big with the Flyers is supposed to happen tomorrow. And the rumor is that Kevin Hayes is getting traded.
Listen, I am willing to hear out the Flyers. They're welcome in my home again, but I'm not speaking with them. Like I will care for them. This is purely just a survival sort of agreement that I've made with them. I will make them food. I will make sure that they have access to all the things that you need to survive. I'm not interested in having a relationship with them at this point. They're going to have to do a lot of work to make that up to me, but I'm not making them sleep outside anymore and fend for themselves and be exposed to the elements and potentially die. Like I've worked my way up from there. So whatever they do is whatever they do. I'm interested to hear about it. Like they can tell me about it. Again, I'm not going to talk back to them. They can tell me all about it, but we'll see.
And it took less than a week to bring in the next Flyers alumni to the front office, too. John LeClair joining the fold, which was like the one guy we just didn't name.
Don't know how we missed John LeClair on our list of bringing back the hits. I think the funniest thing you could do is get Eric Lindros back. That would probably be the best bit you could pull. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, I am skeptical of the practice of just bringing back a bunch of old faces and assuming that they know stuff about hockey too. I don't know, but again, I'm willing to give anyone that is not named Chuck Fletcher a shot.
It's very true. That's very true. And then from the Flyers' alleged change of their jerseys to some Sixers players that may or may not be back next year. Brought to you by Tomahawk Shades, the best small batch eyewear in the game. You guys can go to tomahawkshades.com, check out all the sunglasses, blue light glasses, and everything that they have to make sure your eyes are protected from violent blue light rays, and just keep your eyes in tip-top shape. Go to tomahawkshades.com. Use code USP at checkout for 25% off your order. That's tomahawkshades.com, code USP for 25% off your order. Montrezl Harrell declined his $2.7 million player option, and I do have to say, pretty surprised that Trez is betting on himself after the lackluster season that he had with the Sixers last year. Don't know if he's going to get $2.7 million with this new cap from another team, but we shall see. And then Shake Milton apparently more than likely not returning to the Sixers as he's going to look for a bigger deal unless things with James Harden change, allegedly, is the story there.
Yeah, so Montrez, I think, can actually technically get a raise on a vet minimum somewhere because of the increase. So I think he's just exploring that. Fair enough. I'm going to be honest. In absolutely nothing of importance in his time as a Sixer. It simply just exists on Basketball Reference. It does not it doesn't really make an impact anywhere else. Shake Milton is a little more interesting. I got to be honest though, I think people are really overselling the Shake Milton hype and that he's going to go somewhere and become something. Shake Milton has had chances here, and he has been just a spotty rotational player. Again, he's one of these guys that I think people have gotten really attached to, and he just has never. He's never hit the ceiling. It's just never worked out for him. Not going to pretend like the Sixers have always been perfect with Shake Milton, but he has gotten a lot of opportunities. I think people also have a tendency to treat him like he's like a young upcoming player still. He's 26. He just is who he is. Like he's a rotational guard player in the NBA. He's looking for maybe a place where he has a better establishment because listen, if Harden and Maxey come back, he really is simply like a guy that's going to be just coming off the bench. Like I just haven't seen it from him, and I wish him good luck. I have no ill will towards him, but I think people have really overrated isn't the word. I think people have really overvalued his contribution and like the type of player he is, which is like a very natural thing to do. And he's one of our longest tenured players too, so that also makes sense. But I think he's the type of player that I think people have just grown really attached to, and frankly, it's just not been that impactful for us.
And on NBC Sports Philadelphia this week, Noah Levick, who covers the team, put out an article. We'll put it in the description of the podcast as well. It's the 13 best undrafted Sixers of all time because Sixers obviously lacking draft picks due to the league taking them away for quote-unquote tampering with P.J. Tucker and Daniel House.
I did nothing, and they indicted me.
Oh, that's Daryl to a T.
May have committed some light treason. That's all.
That's what NFTs do, baby. He put here that some of the close calls were Scott Brooks, Michael Curry, and Boban, along with Daniel House, to just miss the cut. But these are the 15 that he listed. Just to get your thoughts here, Matt. Bruce Bowen is number one on this list here. Spent 42 of his 873 NBA games as a Sixer. Then after Bruce Bowen, it's Raja Bell. And then, obviously, he was on that 2000-2001 Sixers team. I went to the NBA Finals. Then we got one that is one of the most beloved process-era Sixers of all time, T.J. McConnell. Reggie Evans, Andres Nocioni, Dwayne Dedman, Justin Holiday, Kevin Ollie, NBA champion Ish Smith, Anthony Oliver, Christian Wood, Robert Covington, Seth Curry. Those are the players there that Noah Levick had listed. I think the process era ones obviously stand out to everybody because it's the most recent. But if you had to pick from that list, who do you think reigns supreme?
So I'm going to be honest, I completely forgot Andres Nocioni played for the Sixers. That has been completely wiped from my brain. I think Bowen is definitely the best player on that list in terms of impact. But yeah, I think there's quite a few players on the list that I would love to have back. Christian Wood has been linked back with the Sixers somehow this offseason. So that would be – and the funny thing about this list is that seems to be the way the career has gone for a lot of these guys. It's drafted by the Sixers, spend your best years away, and then come back. Not that Christian Wood is at the tail end of his career, but it does go to show, too, that I think the Sixers, because obviously in the draft, the inspiration for this article talks about we don't have a pick. You don't necessarily have to have a pick to get a little lucky, and it does seem like the Sixers might be getting aggressive at buying a second-round pick if there's a guy that they like. So that makes me a little happy to hear at least. But, yeah, the Sixers at least have some history in having luck with and listen, even in recent years, the Sixers have not been bad at all, picking in the late first, finding guys in the second round. That's been something they've done at a pretty decent rate. So It's easy to overlook these guys that kind of come later in the night and don't get all the big the interviews afterwards and all that, but they can be just as important. I mean, one was just Finals MVP, so that's the way it goes.
So kind if the Sixers do end up buying a second round pick, so kind of Joshua Harris to spare some yacht fuel money this month to allow the Sixers to get somebody in the draft.
Well, I don't think he can take the yacht out because we obviously have the lost submarine, but we also have orcas just going buck wild on super yachts all across the globe. So I think he's been advised that it's strictly helicopters from now on, because as of yet, geese and other birds have not started to attack helicopters. I'm sure that's the next thing coming. But right now, I think it's a very dangerous time to be a billionaire out on the ocean. I think you're really putting yourself in forces of nature that you can't control. So
they going back to the Submarine article where it was banging was heard underneath the ocean. It was somebody photoshopped just a bunch of orcas with pots and pans with wooden spoons banging on.
Yeah, listen. Shout out to the orcas, man. They got it figured out. They know what they're doing. I respect them.
Last bit here, obviously, it's the Philadelphia Union, who are still right where you want to see them, towards the top of the table. They're in fourth place in the East right now, with 30 points on the season, just behind New England, who's at 33, Nashville with 35, and Cincinnati with 40. Don't remember. So they lost to Orlando
They're playing Orlando
losing.
Right now. They're 1-0 down in Orlando. Yeah, a little bit tough too, because in the middle, the MLS is always a little weird with this, in that they have games going on still during like international breaks. So you're almost kind of punished for having. It's already a tough thing in Europe where like your best players go away during the break and they're not able to like train or rest a little bit. It's even harder in the MLS where you have players actually missing game time now because they're away on international duty. Not much you can do about it, but you're missing guys like Blake or Gazdag, and that's a frustrating component to all this. But you hope that you can still get a win. It's a little tough when you go 1-0 down early, though. That does not help.
Yeah, it's tough, especially since Orlando's a team that the Union should be able to beat. So hopefully they're able to kind of rebound there, but 16th minute right now, being down 1-0 is tough, because you see yourself in fourth place now, with not as many games in the month of June to kind of bounce back and forth between some of these top teams in the table. So you want to see as much success against these teams that you're capable of beating and should beating more often than not. So hopefully they're able to bounce back here and then finish the month of June strong, going into that stretch that they have to start off July.
Yeah, and I know you'll like this because MLS is teaming up with Marvel, and the Union tweeted out a teaser about it. So there's going to be some kind of Union MLS Marvel mashup that we're going to get more on over the next few weeks. That's going to be a big part of their All-Star weekend as well. So looking forward to that. Maybe a little top bands, underground sports, streamer season crossover, the most ambitious crossover event.
Talk about the Avengers. I mean, how much of the MLS Marvel collaboration is going to Messi's contract? That's what I want to know.
I think he's being recast actually as Captain Americas. He's Captain of the Americas now. I think is the deal. So yeah,
there it is. I believe that's all we've got for you guys on this episode. So make sure you're following us at Underground PHI, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.com/UndergroundSportsPHI, Twitch.tv/UndergroundSportsPHI. Follow Matt on Twitter at Matt Castorina. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Subscribe to the podcast feed on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a 5-star rating and review. It does go a long way for helping the show continue to grow. Helps more people find Underground Sports Philadelphia and our entire network of podcasts. And, of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@UndergroundSportsPhiladelphia. That's where you get full video episodes of this show and every podcast on our network. every single week, including all of our video content, just goes right on the YouTube channel. And be sure to get your merch at PHI Apparel Company, the best in the game, phiapparel.co, code underground. You get 10% off any and all merch orders. It's the most effective and direct way to support everything we're doing, so go get your merch as well. And, of course, this podcast is presented by City of Vineland. Whether you are to relocate your business, a new business startup, or just, you're looking for the best quality for your business out there, looking to expand, relocate, or your new business startup, selecting the right location is critical to your success. And Vineland, New Jersey offers both an affordable business location and an excellent quality of life. The city's economic development department is a one-stop source for moving your project through the development and approval process, and their goal is to make this process as smooth as possible and to provide the fastest turnaround times in the region. If you're considering potential locations for your operation, contact the Vineland Economic Development Team at 856-794-4100. That's 856-794-4100, Vineland, New Jersey, where it's always growing season. And big thank you to Security 21 Security Systems and Paul J. Gillespie Incorporated for their continued support of this podcast. But this has been episode number 544 of Underground Sports Philadelphia. For Matt, I'm KB. Next week we'll be back in studio. But until then, we are getting the heck up out of here, and we are signing off. Peace.